Hi friends, it's Angie. This is January and February update. Just when I was ready to do an update for January, I had another very bad fall and ended up in hospital and damaged my knee and still am not mobile again. So I'm making videos about that. I believe it's ciprofloxacin damage from 2014 when I was administered that antibiotic without informed consent in hospital intravenously, definitely in the Cavan General Hospital where it was logged and my GP has record of that and confirmed it. But I was also thinking this morning in the Mater where I had the catastrophic surgery in January 2014. One of the reasons they reopened my open wound, which I'd only consented to keyhole surgery. So first of all, they went open surgery, then they reopened the wound on the ward with a registrar, and I discovered that they said I possibly had E. coli, but actually what it turned out was that 6 doses of intravenous antibiotics had been missed because students were allowed to put my cannulas in, and I had 8 cannulas in 12 days. It was horrific. All my veins collapsed. It was horrific. Just had students practicing on me as if to tick off units on their medical training. The Mater Misericordiae teaching hospital in Dublin. Um, you know, um, so I may have been given ciprofloxacin there as well. I don't know, but I definitely have it on record that it was administered to me at Cavan General with no informed consent and with documented side effects worldwide of collapsed joints and subsequent bone breakages and joint issues, to the point where it's banned in America. And my understanding is it's only administered for end stage chronic serious issues in Ireland, which they may have thought, they did suspect I had cancer because I had 2 tumors and ovarian cyst and blood anomalies and severe pain. But nonetheless, it's not okay. So anyway, I had a catastrophic fall, just a simple thing, a greasy winter patio after my son had done some gardening. And my left knee's not holding me up. And at the same time, my colleague also, first of all, broke his ribs. And then just a couple of days ago, broke his toe. And so you might think this is a bit woo-woo, but I strongly suspect that it's connected to the fact that we started to focus again on the Hampstead cover-up, alleged satanic ritual abuse case in Hampstead, North London, dating back to 2014. And, we didn't necessarily choose to refocus on it until Tortoise Media and Channel 4 started to shine the light on the case again with the intention to double down on the debunk. So just in reaction and response to that, we've shone the light back there, and people are starting to come back together that felt absolutely demoralized
I'm
by.
sorry to interrupt, Angie. We actually republished children's testimonies on BitChute a day before Tortoise Media
That's
released
right. They seem to be
their
reacting
first
to us.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that might be more
It,
accurate. Is
it
that
fell together, but we posted all the testimonies, the children's testimonies, a day before. So it sort of fell together. I don't know if it's an accident or Tortoise Media quickly reacted to it and they released 3 podcasts in one go instead of one. And
that's right.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
think
And
they
and the
reacted
first,
to us. Yeah.
yeah, the first time when we said, "Wow, they've just done a knee-jerk reaction," and then Jake Clark said, "Oh, don't be so arrogant. How could you say that?" But then the second time when we did another powerful blog, there was another reaction piece within a few hours in the Sun newspaper. So I don't think it's a coincidence, but so yeah, maybe they were reacting to our work. I think one of the major things we did was to edit and upload the original disclosure videos. And some people are still not getting this distinction. It's not about the first videos that DC promoted to DS, Steve Martin, you know, having the children retract part 1 and part 2. To me, the most important disclosures were the original disclosures to Abraham, Ella, Finbar, and Jean Clement in September 2014.
Yes, and also just not to mislead people, the only editing we've done was when the video, they were all filmed on a phone. Ella was filming on a phone and Abraham. And only when the video is sideways to put it up proper way. And also when the sound was very low, just to enhance the sound. That's the only editing we've done.
Absolutely. So it was just audio editing and correcting, you know, putting them the right way up. So so the Hampstead case has gained legs again, whether it was because, you know, a year ago we'd contacted Christiane Sands. She'd put us in touch with a researcher in France who had all the original disclosures, and we had sat on them for a while. And Christina rightly kind of upbraided us. Why haven't you done anything with those videos? So we did. You know, better late than never. It's a very dangerous game. Not game. It's a very dangerous thing to cover, to report on something which seems like a government operation, something which seems like almost even an international cover-up. It's a dangerous occupation. But anyway, we bit the bullet and we put them up, and it went back and forth, Tortoise Media, and then we got information that Channel 4 are bringing out a documentary, and they're both boasting that they've spoken to the children, and the children are, according to the mainstream media or fake alternative media people, the children are ready to roll it out again and say, yes, it was mum and Abraham. It wasn't daddy. We love daddy, you know. So Abraham has said in a video with guidance that they would never betray me. The children loved me. They knew that they could finally tell the truth to me, and so on and so forth. But I just would remind Abraham that while the children were heavily under mind control and trauma, they did things like trigger warning, put feces on your toothbrush and attempt to cut your hair while you were sleeping, give their father your phone to plant child porn on it, and attempt to take your credit cards, all sorts of things that the children were used for. Don't forget that child soldiers is a thing, you know. So I've talked about 2 or 3 years ago, a judge's daughter sending me the, I've said her name so many times. I love you, children. I hope one day you'll realize that. Somebody sent me Elisa's Pinterest and Elisa's Instagram, and it looked full on cult. It did look very distressing to me. Lots of daddy daughter love stuff, lots of jokes about dead goats in the garden, a lot of stuff that made me think, you know, are they going to succeed in churning out another generation of satanic ritual abuse? And I pray not, with all my heart. I really do. So yeah, we've both had severe debilitating injuries necessitating hospital visits, and I'm starting, as a side effect of that, I'm starting to refocus on medical abuse as it pertains to MK Ultra, cradle to grave kind of victim survivors. and I'm looking forward to doing some shows on that, including with a couple of American platforms that I've started to partner with. So that was why there was no January update. And sometimes when Aaron and I do an update, we're both on painkillers, and it's like, okay, I've been in the A&E till 5 o'clock this morning. I don't know if I can work today. And then a few hours later, he's like, I'm on codeine. I'm fine. Let's do some work. So we've plowed on, but we didn't update for January, and this is a double month update. So is that everything for now on Hampstead? I know it's the other exciting thing is that Abraham's starting to bring forward the backstory, some of which I was aware of. I stayed with a wonderful person near Hampstead for a few days in 2015 or 16, who had been a victim of Steve Martin, DCDS Steve Martin, previously, and had extensive evidence of corruption. But she was fighting to regain custody of her 6 stolen children. And understandably, when a mother's fighting for their children, a lot of mothers think it's too dangerous to go public. Like Ella went public, Samantha Baldwin went public, Angela Ray went public. So many mothers have gone public, but it takes a lot of courage. So I think it's time for this mother and her partner who has information relevant to my background and residence too. I think it's time for them to step up. It's time. We've got another chance at this, and it might be the last window of opportunity, 2023. So yeah, subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to Aaron's channel. He's at about over 500 subscribers now. Let's get his channel, Archives of Truth, up to 1,000. And let's just, have one more go. Let this not turn into a historical case of cover up. Let's not let it be another thing where you have to wait for perpetrators to die before you can prove what was going on. It shouldn't be that way. Not in Rotherham, not in Kincora, not in the children's homes, not in the military. It shouldn't be that we wait for people to die, or even that survivors take compensation and agree to a 75-year gagging order, for things to be locked up and sealed for 50, 75, 100 years. They're obviously waiting not just for the perpetrators to die, but the survivors too. So let's carry on with a few more things. The next thing I wanted to talk about is Sherborne Preparatory School, prep school. And I've been watching an awful lot of the Imagination podcast. And there was somebody I was connected with on Twitter and Facebook, but we just kind of touched base a few times over the past years, but never gone into any great connection. And it's a survivor. Well, she's actually a sibling. She's also a boarding school survivor who participated in the ICSA, International Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse in the UK. And mainly she was fighting for her brothers who'd all been abused in elite boarding prep schools. And it's not just the prep schools, that's just preparation. But anyway, it was Sherborne where 2 of her brothers were severely sexually and physically, emotionally, mentally abused. And it just so happened, after I'd watched one of her interviews on the Imagination and then another one that I'd seen previously, it just so happened to connect with my colleague, assistant Aaron, having lived in Sherborne until a year ago, and having spoken to me and said, oh my God, my partner and I were out walking and we came across these children and 8 adults with them, and they were clearly in distress, and there's something going on. I'm absolutely convinced of it. And it was only a couple of weeks ago that my colleague and I clicked. I said, I've been speaking to Joanna Britton. I've seen her interviews on The Imagination, and one I'd seen before, but I hadn't connected it. And he was like, yeah, that's what I was telling you about a year ago. So can I just ask you to recount what you saw? Was it in the forest or in the woods?
No, no, we were, but it was literally in the very center of Sherborne, where near boys' school.
Okay. Near Sherborne
And
Prep, which is an elite preparatory school for children to go on to Eton or Marlborough, or it's an elite boarding school.
and that school had a massive scandal. Was it in 70s?
Yeah, which Joanna Britton
Where
had a lot to do with
yeah,
uncovering.
where parents went went nuts because the school said that children who are staying, the boys who were staying there like 7 days a week, the
Yeah,
parents were not allowed to see them, like not allowed to see them, and the school was saying so they don't distract them from their studies, which is pure nonsense. Parents went up in arms, and it was a massive scandal all over UK, and they had to allow parents to see their own bloody children. What the hell, you know?
yeah.
And then I'm smoking outside Half Moon, which is right opposite Sherborne Cathedral, and
Okay.
which is right next to boys' school. And here's say teen boys, two adults in front of them and two adults behind them. It was January, and the boys were wearing shorts and t-shirts, blue from cold, and they were all walking towards the Castle Gardens, which is owned by an aristocrat. It's a private property, and through the woods. And literally, then one group, and then during one ciggy, then another group of 15 going another side street, but exactly the same direction. Also,
Wow.
with two men in front of them and two men behind them. I
Wow.
said to a couple of boys, I said, "Oh my God, you're going to get frozen. It's January. Look, you're half naked." And they're like, their eyes are big and round, and they're not saying anything. And the men behind them, they were like, "Just go," pushing them. That they're not allowed to talk to people.
Wow.
It's just what kind of secret business is going on, and that is on Saturday,
Yeah.
4:30 for the evening.
Wow.
Saturday evening. What kind of studies are going on Saturday evening?
Wow.
Going straight to aristocrat's house.
Wow. Wow. Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah.
Given the disc, like I'd recommend people, I'm going to post a link in the description to the Imagination podcast where Joanna Britton talks. Well, she's done so much amazing campaigning, getting hopefully getting laws changed. I think she was a core participant in ICSA, but she, like me, was disappointed that the costing 100 million or whatever with three chair people, it was absolute disaster. Fiona Wolf and somebody connected to Lord Britain, accused people being asked to chair an inquiry, let's investigate ourselves kind of thing. And then Alexis J. And I reported to ICSA, the International Inquiry into Child Sexual Abuse Historical. I reported to them and they said to me, I think this was June 2015. I've still got the paperwork for that. And they said to me, well, the first thing you need to do is report the abuse to the police. So I said, and then come back to us. So I went to Brixton Police. Lowell Goddard was another one that was temporary, and then she resigned. It was like a clown show that cost multi-millions. And I went to Brixton Police and reported historical abuse, especially or particularly through the military, where my father was in the British Royal Air Force for 25 years. And they hadn't even heard of ICSA, or they pretended not to. I said, I've been told by the International Inquiry to come and report historical abuse in order to participate. And they were like, what's that? And I were like, well, Lowell Goddard. And they were like, who's she? They knew nothing. But anyway, Brixton referred me to Melksham, which would be Wiltshire police. And then strangely, Wiltshire kind of farmed me out to Avon and Somerset police. They were sharing it. It was like, it was all, and I came across another survivor that reported to ICSA, and he said he had been bounced between 3 police services trying to report in 2014-15. And it was almost as if they didn't want too many reports of the same, naming the same abusers in any one police station, because then they would need to disclose, like they did. They had 17 credible reports on former UK Prime Minister Sir Edward Heath. And they would try and spread those out across different police stations so that no one police station would have to say, like Mike Veal did, yeah, I've had 17 credible reports. So I first reported to Brixton, then I reported to, they transferred me to report to Melksham, Wiltshire, and then they kind of farmed me out to Avon, Somerset, which I didn't understand. Other than, I don't know, I don't understand why that was, that they farmed it out to Avon, Somerset. But something that happened when I then got back in touch with ICSA and said, okay, here's my crime report number, and there's an active investigation going on. They sent me somebody else's full disclosure. You know that some survivors were told, if you don't want to kind of come in person, please send your full disclosure confidentially by email, and we'll, you know, include you in the inquiry, whether it's by the Truth Reconciliation Program, whatever it might be, we'll include you somehow. Well, when I got back in touch with them and said, okay, I've done what you recommended, I've been to the police and there's an active investigation, they sent me somebody else's full disclosure, absolutely every detail, where a survivor trusts an inquiry and says, this is what happened to me. I only read the first couple of paragraphs when I realized, oh my God, this is somebody else's disclosure. And I immediately emailed them back and said, what, this was not long after they had lost 2 weeks of submitted disclosures by online. They just lost them. And when I contacted them and said, you've sent me somebody else's disclosure to verify, they just said, oh, so sorry, that was a clerical error. And I contacted Sky News and BBC. It was 2 Toms, Tom Simander and Tom Parminson or something. And they both asked me, please don't go public with this. We're placing all our hope in this inquiry. We think it's really going to make a difference. Please don't go public with this clerical error. The thing I regret is I didn't inform, and I might try and do this. I might still have the email unless it's been remotely scrubbed from my computer, but I didn't inform this other survivor whose full testimony had been accidentally sent to me to verify. So I might do that still. But I did go semi-public in some private groups, and Shirley Oakes were horrified. And I think they subsequently, not just because of that, but amongst other reasons, withdrew from that inquiry. And I just say the inquiry, although it did generate a couple of resignations and some public embarrassment, they don't have the power to change any laws. And they can make 50 recommendations and 2 might be implemented. So multi-millions, those that participated would get some compensation, but usually be asked to then sign a gagging order. So Sherborne, I wanted to bring that up. Joanna Britton's done some brilliant work on it. They're hoping, the main headmaster, who was the main paedophile, running a private prep school in Sherborne, they're hoping to attach some of his estate. He's died before he got brought to justice. He could have been brought to justice if a Freedom of Information Act had been acted on. When Joanna requested certain information, they wouldn't release it to her, and it came out after he died and would have absolutely proved her case and validated an arrest, absolutely. But it's very rare that only a headmaster is abusing children. It's very rare that it's not more than one person. And so the fact that my colleague assistant had witnessed enough to be, he was really distraught, and I hadn't joined the dots. This is Sherborne Prep that was featured in ICSA and that Joanna Britton campaigned about. I didn't even know about the parents not having access, because Joanna's parents were living in Qatar and were very they managed to get a Sherborne franchise taken out to Qatar and different places all around the world. But anyway, so I just felt like we needed to document what Aaron said a year ago. It's like, oh my God, you'll never believe what we've just come across. These poor little children, wide-eyed and silenced and absolutely policed, being marched in freezing conditions in very little clothing to a private estate, you know, so just worthy of some more attention on that. So let's not make this too long. The crypto complaint that I filed with Fraud Action UK is stalled, and I want to contact the journalist that has been trying to report, for instance, Kalpash Patel, and now we've got more what they used to be called, fat cats at the top, who've retired with millions to Dubai or India or China, wherever, having ripped off, you know, so many people for. It's like FTX is not a single occurrence, and crypto scamming is a huge thing, huge thing. So at the moment, Action Fraud UK have said, oh, thank you for your complaint. We haven't found any lines of inquiry we can follow. Well, I don't buy that at all. We did get informed in chat that the City of London police were looking at it. And so a sort of generic reply, we're sorry you got scammed. We haven't found any lines of inquiry we can follow. Sorry, not buying that.
I'm sorry to interrupt, and we found so many articles in mass media on Kalpesh Patel, and it was a massive scandal, and it's still ongoing, and you are reporting literally on those very same people with very same names, and they're like, sorry, we couldn't find anything. Just look in the mass media. It's just, how come?
But I think our next step is we need to go back and find out who the journalist was that was covering that. I don't know if it was James Harding or who it was, but we need to go back to those mass media, mainstream media.
Yeah, let's contact them and try that
and
way.
Say, look, this is what we said to UK Fraud Action UK, and they came back with, we can't find a line of inquiry to follow. So it's that. And we sent them links to those newspaper articles. We sent them 6 months detective work and links, and they said, we can't find a line.
We were doing their job for them, and they're like, sorry, we can't find anything. Excuse me, I'm slamming your face with it.
And it's exactly the same, you know, money laundering, corruption. It's any kind of corruption. If the police or the Freemasons or both are wanting to ignore it, it doesn't matter how much evidence you flash before them, they'll say, oh, sorry, nothing to see here. You don't know what you're talking about, you know. So that's an ongoing project. So the Anglesey case is gone quiet. Richard Carvath has said he was taking 6 months off and coming back on the scene in March. There's a German core group of supporters. I'm in touch with somebody. Well, I don't want to give background details, but I don't know if Christine was released. She was due to be released in November, but I haven't got an update on that.
Sabine McNeil got released from prison.
Oh yeah, Sabine's back in Germany, thank God. Although she's fully focused on her mathematics, and you know, she's going to take her a while to recover from the trauma, and she must be 75, 76 this year or something. She's had 4.5 years in prison. It's like Melanie Shaw. Some people are alleging that Melanie Shaw is free and has agreed to a gagging order. And with some of the people that have been on the front line of exposing child abuse or corruption, you kind of have it in you to say, you've done your part, you've suffered enough. Let some other people take up the baton. Let some other, even the youngsters. I love seeing, the Hampstead cases featuring all over TikTok, and the youngsters are starting to pick it up. So I'm happy just to answer questions to them and correct any little inaccuracies or put them in touch with. Like, part of the problem is that Abe and Ella have not always been accessible. And this is, Ella had said in the video we featured that got such a reaction from Alexi Mostras, she had said she was available for interviews. Well, both Abraham and Ella it would be good to get them back on the interview circuit, particularly as there's a big onslaught push planned over the next 18 months as the two children reach 18. Right, so yeah. So Bridget Scanlon, this is something, it's more Irish news, but this is a woman that grew up in care and was sexually and physically abused in care. Then she had children, and sadly, some of her children were taken into care and were also abused in care. Then they took her grandchildren, and if anybody is working in the forced adoption field, they know that when they brought in the law, which Sabine McNeill fought so hard against, which is you could take children on the risk of possible future emotional harm, it started to be that the social workers, the ones that were trafficking and corrupt, would say, because you grew up in care, you're likely to be a damaged parent. So therefore, we're going to take your children. Because so through no fault, not enough that these parents were abused in childcare, they now were being punished for having been abused in childcare by having their children and their grandchildren taken. So Bridget Scanlon is just a phenomenal warrior that's been fighting in Ireland for years to expose corruption in child protection services. And she's just been jailed for 3 years. Now, 18 months was suspended. She'll probably only serve a year, but she is tiny and frail and 48 and just brutalized from childhood. And her children are devastated, absolutely devastated. She got reunited with some of her children as they came of age out of the care system themselves at 18, and came home and told her all the abuse they'd suffered just as she had. And they ended up taking her grandchildren too. So pray for Bridget Scanlon, and for anybody that can write to her or support her in any way. I have her prisoner number, and the next person with the head on the chopping block is another fantastic Irish campaigner called Angela Ray, and the next person could be me. If Ricky Dearman's threat that Elisa and Gabriel would come after me as soon as they were of age, if we don't do something, it's us next. So that's that. It's a heavy load to carry. Trolling, I talked about guidance, right? I don't like to address trolls, but guidance has actually done a lot for the Hampstead case. He went to almost every court case. He went and filmed around the school almost immediately after the disclosures went viral in February 2015. He's spoken with Abraham. He's gone back and forth about whether he trusts Ella and Abraham. But he, as we've started to try and unite again, to have another go at getting justice for the children, Guidance chose to make a video focusing on my artwork. So as I said to him, that one was a gift. Well, both were a gift from an American artist called Colin Black. That one's called Soul Sisters. My murdered, as I believe, sister and I were 11 months apart in age, and that's called Irish Twins. And that reminds me of her and I as children. The other one was customized. It reminds me of my daughter and grandchildren visiting me in Lanzarote and the days we had on the beach that was so wonderful. And So why anybody would see those as pedophilic art or satanic art is just sometimes people just have a bad mind. Sometimes you just have to check yourself, you know. So that's all I'll say about the trolling. I got another troll attack on Twitter from somebody called, I think, Anya Sullivan, and I've contacted her and said, get in touch and I'll correct your inaccuracies. You know, happy to answer your libelous, slanderous accusations, but no response thus far. And what I was disgusted at was Pada Tobin, for whom I voted, liked her comment. And when I said to him, you know, these accusations she's making are inaccurate and libelous, and I'm disappointed that you've just done a casual like, no response. So you have to take the hate with it. Medical abuse is our next project. We're doing some really exciting research and work and testimony giving about personal medical abuse and getting responses that indicate this is not just one off, this is an orchestrated targeting. And I think that's it for the update. Is there anything else? Oh, I've lost Aaron, but it's okay.
No, no, medical abuse. Your video is already uploaded. The original video, which YouTube removed, has been already uploaded on your BitChute channel.
Yeah,
and that's why you're getting responses already straight away, a few hours after.
Yeah, I start getting people contact me at 1 a.m. saying, oh my God, you know.
And we will upload edited video, well, slightly, just tiny bit edited, but on YouTube again, and try see if YouTube removes it or not.
Yeah, we're trying to do premieres at 6 o'clock each evening, maybe just 3 nights a week, but we're trying to find a regular slot so people can think, oh, let me see if there's anything at that time. And I would finally say that March is the time for my annual website fees to come in. So although my GoFundMe looks healthy over 2.5 years, it shows 9,500, but I promise you it just covers, it bought a new computer, it bought a camera, a microphone, it pays the website fees, it pays the internet, it pays security software, and so on and so forth. So for those that do contribute, I'm very, very grateful. And if anybody can contribute, it doesn't matter, small or large, but March is a big month for the annual fees for the website and the hosting platform and all that kind of stuff. So there will be a GoFundMe link in the description here, and we'll premiere this probably the day after tomorrow. So from Aaron and myself, thank you for your support. Please pray for us. We need to also put on our spiritual armor, because whenever we go where angels fear to tread, we get blasted and start falling over and breaking bones that don't show up broken, and just really getting hammered. So since we
re-uploaded children's testimonies, shit hit the fan.
Shit hit the fan big time. All right, guys, I'm going to go now, and Ruby's going back to the vet for a checkup. And thanks for those who prayed. Connect on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, BitChute. Subscribe here and Archives of Truth if you haven't. It really helps. Please like and share and comment and all that stuff. And as I say, if you can contribute, whatever it is, please do, especially this month. God bless. All right. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.